To add your own custom nation to Freeciv, first of all you need to create a nation rule set. We'll do that now by copying one of the default nations, change the name. You can use any text editor to edit it. I'm using Notepad++. I substitute the name and the nation underscore title. This one is used in all the files, and the name equals underscore is used whenever your nation is interpreted as a civil war nation for another one. So if you add your nation and the two names differ from each other, the one you should use when setting it as a civil war nation for another one, then you should use this one. Then the plural. Then you set up the group. Groups are used for convenience when picking the nation in the game. And then, as we will see later, the nations from the same group can be more likely to appear together. We'll see later how we can set this up. So in the default, for example, the imaginary group is more likely to appear together. So if you pick an imaginary nation and all the others would be set at random, then they would also be picked from the imaginary group. Then the legend is a description of the nation that would appear in the game. Backslashes are set up using backslashes. We'll leave this empty. Delete the names. You can set them as male or female, and then they'll use the appropriate titles. Semicolons are used for comments. So if you write something after a semicolon, the game engine will not interpret this and it will not break the functioning of the code. Then you can customize the ruler title for each of the available governments. If, for example, you have a communist nation, by default you'll have the title of comrade, I think. But if you want more Juche style, then you can set yourself as supreme leader, for example. If the same title is used for a female ruler, then you should write this like that. Question mark, female. I don't know why this matters, but better play it safe. And the flag name. Then you set up the same name in all the files that identify the flag. Flag out is used if you have missing flag. And then the city style. The default are European, Celtic, Classical, Tropical, Asian, and Babylonian. These are supposedly used in some rule sets, but I never encountered the need to use them. So I don't know. And the Civil War nations. These spring up whenever you use your capital and your nation splinters. Since we're using an imaginary fake nation, let's use some imaginary fake nations as Civil War nations as well. Remember to make sure that the last one is not followed by a comma. There has to be a comma between each of them, but if it appears at the end, it breaks the game. I will also address the typical bugs like that and how to identify them later. Then there's the list of city names. They also are separated by commas, and the last one cannot have a comma afterwards. You don't necessarily have to write as many names as you could ever need to have in a game, because they will never run out. If you use up all the names, then the default suggested names will be taken from the Civil War nations, and if they run out, the game will take Civil War nation, the city names from the Civil War nations, and if no Civil War nation is set, then you'll have random city names from all the nations available in the game. So you'll never have to worry about not having enough city names given for you. So the nation rule set is set now. Now you have to show the game how to find it. You have to go to the default folder and edit. It's in the data folder in the game. You edit the nation list .rule set, and then you can add your name into the included list. You can put it wherever. It could be alphabetically, or you could simply add it at the end. Now the game knows how to find this file and use it when you are picking your nation from the list. One thing I forgot to mention is, if you want a city name to be used only and it's settled on a particular terrain, you can put the name of the tile within brackets inside the quotation marks surrounding the city name. If you want to see how to format this, then in the American type you have a lot of cities with specified terrains. You can see all the different terrain types, and for example in Minneapolis you have the not sign with an exclamation mark. It means that, for example, it will not appear near an ocean, hills, mountains, or desert, or near a jungle. So you can set up where the city name should or should not be used. Then the next thing is setting up the flag. I prepared a simple flag for our example nation. There have to be two files, the large and the small version of the flag. The large version of the flag must have 44 by 30 pixels, and the regular sized one has to have 29 by 20 pixels. We save it, and then we set the shields that appear next to your units. These mask files you can find in the game's GitHub repository, which I will link in the description. Let's copy the image. Set it to transparent. For some reason you have to always drag it twice. Then drag it back. Save it as the nation name dash shield dash large. Then set the pink background to transparent. Then create the other file the same way. Nation name -shield, copy it into the game data folder and then flags. Then you have to show the game where to find the files. Go into the misc folder and you have the files flags, flags large, shields and shields large. Let's go at the end and set all of them. Simply make sure you use the same formatting that the game uses for the default nations. And as for the nation groups, in the nation list rule said you have to all those used in the game by default. If you want to add your own, you can copy one of them, set the name, for example, to my own. If I, for example, want my own nations to appear together more often, you can set the match weight. So the higher the match weight, then it is more likely to appear together. 2 ensures that if you start as a nation from this group, all the others that would appear are from the same particular group. So let's add the type, my own group. Now let's check if it works. We start the game. Starting local server. If it freezes at starting local server, most likely there is a missing comma, but it's started up now. So let's pick the nation. As you can see, my own group appears. We start the game, and then let's check the city names. The 2 that we've set for the nation are correctly used, and since the city names ran out now, we'll have the city name from one of the Civil War nations that we've set. So now on to common bugs. If the game freezes with the message starting local server, let us enter into the command line and then to the game folder and start the file freeciv-server.exe, and then you get the error. It is expecting something else, expecting end of line, and then in the line 31. So let's navigate into the file and see where is this stumbling mistake. Line 31, position 6. Line 31 is the cities equals. It is looking at the equals sign and doesn't expect it. Then we look back and the error is just before. This comma here causes the game to stumble. Now the error should disappear. We try again. And then there is another problem. It expects something different when looking at the nation barbarian rule set. The barbarian rule set is added to the game after all the default nations that are given in the game. So in the nation before there's a mistake, the comma here at the last city. Now the game sees an unsupported sex variant female. We correct it. We load it again. And now it starts the server with no problems. Let's try starting the game again. It seems to freeze. And then it crashes with no indication as to what happens. The server is started without problems in the command line. When this happens, the most likely culprit is some problem with the flag files. For example, here I simply changed the name, so now the game could not identify this flag, and that's why it crashed. You could have some files missing or some name be wrong in the files or in the flag files. So this is the most likely issue if it starts without problems. Also, you can start up the server in verbose mode using -d space 3, and it will give you also the errors that will not crash the game, like for example civil wars, nations being unidentified. I changed this on purpose before, but the game will start without issues and you can play. It will simply not be able to identify this civil war nation that you wrote with the wrong name. So there you have it. If you run into any additional problems, you can feel free to contact me and I will try to help out. I also invite you to try out my nations, which I link in the description. So that will be all.